We're very pleased to be joined just for the last part of this hour session by Jerry Skurla, who's VP at Firemon, who's going to give you his perspective. He's launched two US companies in Europe, so we'll provide an overview from his perspective. So, Jerry, hopefully you can hear us okay.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Am I clear?
You are, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you very much for the introduction. You've had good insights from three experts in three of the major countries in Europe. They are different. They have a different word for everything, I've come to learn. My most recent experience has been launching two US-based cybersecurity companies into Europe. And it's always interesting when your CEO walks in and says it's about time for us to expand beyond the U.S., figure out what we do in Europe. And many companies American companies tend to start in the U.K. first because of the common language, and then quickly look at France and Germany because of the size of both of those important markets. Next slide, please. Part of my process was actually to fly over to the UK and interview 6 or 7 different agencies before we selected Eclat Marketing at my previous firm, Nitro Security. The cavalcade of agencies are outrageous. Giant, super slick agencies, medium-sized specialists, small boutiques. It was very clear from those interviews who would work with us as a partner and who was basically going to take our funding and maybe give us some efforts. And I was very pleased to say that Eclat Marketing met that criteria of that sort of mid-sized specialist around cybersecurity. And it was important that we had a cybersecurity specialist because it has its own language. Depending on what technology sector you're in, that may be important to you. For me, it was critical because cyber is creating its own language as we speak, and having an agency specializing in cybersecurity only was very, very important. Our objectives are very straightforward. We wanted to be mentioned. We wanted to be in appropriate publications. Coverage that counts is my personal motto. And we took Eclat's recommendations about having an issues-based launch, not about, American comes over. Now in cybersecurity, the general news media provides lots of opportunities for that, given the almost daily data breaches of dramatic proportions, former NSA employees fleeing the United States and traveling to various countries in Europe, and Europe-focused breaches in addition to global breaches like Sony and eBay and Target and others. The press and analysts were a key element of this, and it was very clear, and part of our process was who understood that once you get the press interested in something, they quickly go to analysts and local analysts in country to get the vendor's comments validated. So the advice was you brief the analysts first, then the press, because then the press go back and ask the analysts if these folks know what they're talking about or not. And so that capability was very, very important. On the breaking news front, we've had some very creative programs with Eclat. One of the best was regarding the London Olympics last summer, when it became clear that the London government was going to try to minimize traffic disruptions by asking London-based employees to not come into work. A light bulb went on during one of our regular weekly calls that network organizations were going to be provisioning a lot more work-from-home access into their networks than they did normally. Right, in many cases, 15, 20, maybe 25% of a workforce of an organization works from home, the rest are in the office. Well, in this case, for 2 weeks, that was swinging to 100%, and the changes in configurations of the network to do that could lead very easily to holes that could be used by hackers to breach security and exfiltrate data. Eclat quickly connected with the idea, came up with several excellent story angles, and I think we had 7 or 8 immediate pickups in both business and trade publications. It was an excellent campaign done very, very quickly. Next slide. In working with an agency, I completely echo what Diane and Helmut and Tommy have said. You have to work with local folks in the right geography. Even in the U.S. and in other parts of the world, when I've selected agencies, I've never seen a global agency outperform a quality local agency, and I believe that that's the case. It creates a little more work on the vendor side because you're managing 4 or 5 agencies, and the benefit that the globals claim is you have one briefing call with them or one brainstorm call with them, and they cascade things down to all the in-country affiliates. Well, the in-country affiliates have some of the best ideas, not the headquarters folks. So I've always focused on and been very successful with quality regional specialist organizations who indeed do understand the market. Classic example, Nitro security products as well as Firemon products have elements of privacy management to them. And so we had learned about the EU privacy laws, and we assumed if we talked about a product relative to the EU privacy laws that we'd be set. Well, we learned that every EU country has its own individual privacy laws that build off of the common EU law. So we quickly understood that that was the case, and the requirements of the privacy laws in Germany with workers' councils was very different than in the UK, and was very different in France as well. So local folks do understand the market, and that leads really to the next 2 points, is to support them and listen to them. I'm based in Boston in the East Coast, and I've had CEOs in my time zone and in different time zones. And before I agreed to go forward with PR overseas, I said, you need to be available when we get hot story opportunities and they need a C-level spokesperson. And that means waking up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. Eastern Central Time to be on a call, because when news breaks, it breaks quick. I got those commitments, and the firms I've worked with have been excellent at knowing which level of spokesperson to use and for what type of opportunity. Second element is to have, wherever possible, spokespeople in country. So we've actually done some media training with some of our sales executives in country so that we could have German or a French or a British national in country respond to certain press opportunities where that was the most important. Say it was a business topic around distribution channels or go-to-market strategies. Next slide. There are many critical success factors, and integrating PR with sales and marketing is absolutely critical. We recently had a data breach by Monsanto in the U.S. where a small division had customer and employee information on the same server. That server was breached, and it got quickly picked up by some UK outlets. The Eclat team quickly came up with a story angle, looked for a quote from our chief technology officer in this case, not our CTO, and that happened very quickly. We then complemented that with comment from our UK sales executive, because it's important when you do expand overseas to realize that the channels you go to market with are looking to see if you're serious about being in the market as well. And your investment in air cover with PR and with lead generation, whether jointly with a partner or with other agencies, is critical to them believing you're serious. So, as you look at justifying a PR investment to your executive team, the second angle, not just for awareness, because no one's going to buy a product from a company they've never heard of, but channel partners will not pick your product up if they don't see your corporate commitment and investment in building the air cover that supports their activity. The pay-by-results model that Eclat and its partners use is excellent on two fronts. One, the fact that it operates that way helps get the PR budget approved as part of the international expansion, because it's very clear what outcomes will be expected. Many organizations are used to the retainer model for PR agency budgeting, and many executive teams, especially CFOs, can't draw clear results to that type of arrangement. The pay-by-results model reduces that fear and that uncertainty very quickly, and has allowed and has dramatically shortened the amount of time it's taken me to get funding for international PR approved. The second thing that it does, and it applies here as well to being realistic on budgets, having access to executives, and effective communications, is that the objectives agreed to for each quarter are very clear and concrete. We're not hoping to get some thought leadership, maybe some buzz on the social media side, and maybe a contributed article in the vertical pub and the horizontal pub. We're looking at all of those working in concert, with 5 to 6 of those being PBR objectives and PBR bonuses paid relative to that. Next slide. So thank you. I guess I would close my section, and we're open to questions, by saying that you do need to work with local folks. The team of agencies represented on this call represent the best of the mid-size expert organization that I've integrated with. I'm happy to recommend all of them, and happy to have one-on-one calls with anybody who would like to for private references. Over to you.